400 million years ago, a shallow sea covered most of New York State. You wouldn't know it today, unless you traveled well below the rolling hills of cornfields and dairy farms, down 1,200 feet to where the telltale evidence of that sea can be found in abundance.
During the late 1800s, when oil was first being discovered in Pennsylvania, they kept drilling further and further north from Pennsylvania up to New York, and they kept hitting the same salt seam. As they progressed further north, the salt seam got thicker, the quality was high enough, and they started mining it for preservatives, for tanning hides, and for refrigeration. American rock salt was established in 1997. They began sinking the shafts in 1998 and were completed in 2001. Since that time, we have been one of the largest producing underground salt mines in the United States.
Rock salt is an essential material to the ground transportation system in the northeastern U.S., allowing people and materials to keep moving despite the ice and snow of winter. Extracting the material from the 12 square miles of underground caverns is rugged work and a marvel of ingenuity, engineering, and mechanical know-how. Central to the mine's operation are purpose-built CAT R2900 load, haul, dump machines, or LHDs.
These R2900s are a lot different than the machines on the surface. They're really robust, and the steel is 3 or 4 times thicker than what it is on the surface.
The R series of underground machine is fairly unique. These machines pretty much just barely fit in there. An R2900 is a large machine that handles a 15.2 yard bucket and it'll carry almost 20 tons. The operator sits sideways, so he basically looks left to go forward and looks right to go backwards. The machine doesn't do anything all day long but dig a muck pile and then tram anywhere from 2 to 800-900 feet.
Your fastest machine that's moving the product is the loader, of course. And as fast as we can and get the product on our belts and up here to our pile or wherever it's going, being dispersed. A lot of it is you just have to really be comfortable in yourself when it comes to the machine.
Mining in general is a very rough operation. The roads are never as good as you'd like them to be. The machines live a pretty rugged life. They are run wide open at times, traveling 13, 14 miles an hour.
The loaders haul the salt that's been blasted from the previous night shift, lifting 15 to 16 tons in each bucket load, then dumping it into a conveyor system, which crushes, moves, and eventually pulverizes the rock into small, pea-sized granules. From what can seem like a small, underground frontier town, the mine produces about 18,000 tons of salt each workday. It's enough, depending on conditions, to cover nearly 20,000 lane miles of roadway.
All the salt that comes up out of the mine is either sent to the pile here or it's sent into a rail car. Once it hits the rail car, it is then distributed to our 20-some plus other stockpiles throughout the Northeast. On a daily basis, the underground loaders are the key performers that we measure our productivity through.
Productivity depends on machine availability. American rock salt's newly arrived CAT R2900s will only be available after a long mechanical journey of disassembly and reassembly. It begins on the surface, in the maintenance shop. It will end underground after a nearly quarter-mile ride in the Cage, the mine's 12 by 15-foot service elevator. It's an excursion very few owners of heavy equipment have to endure.
When you get a brand new piece of equipment, the last thing you want to do is have to rip it apart and then put it back together.
There is something that was a little odd at first about tearing a brand new, perfectly good machine apart to send it underground, taking a wrench to a $1.5 million machine and tearing it into pieces before it's even put into service.
We begin with the bucket, get the bucket off it. From there, we start pulling the boom arms and front bogie, and then the transmission, then the cab, then the engine, then the radiator.
You got to make the weight for the cage, which is we don't like to go over 15 ton. With the loaders, the rear frame section is the most difficult to put on because you need to have everything chained down correctly, and as you push it on the cage, you have to be lined up right, and then taking it off. Just something you got to take slow and get it done.
Each R2900 weighs 70 tons and has an overall length of nearly 38 feet with its bucket. The disassembly and reassembly process will take about a month for each machine.
Once we get it underground, take it down to where we call our gantry that's in the underground shop, and we'll cog the frame up in the gantry, and then we'll start going right backwards, put in the radiator, engine, tranny, cab, and just build it back to how it was up here.
This machine will go underground and spend 12 to 15, maybe 17,000 hours. Then we'll take it all apart, rebuild it, probably get another 10 to 15 out of it, then rebuild it again. And its third rebuild will be the end of its lifespan.
The two new machines we purchased, units LH16 and LH17, are replacing the number 4 and number 5 machines, which are over 20 years old. They probably have close to 40,000 hours on them. They have gone through 3 CPT rebuilds.
The two newest R2900s are Tier 4 final machines, which produce the cleanest emissions that are available today, short of something in electric mode.
It's a phenomenal machine. Very quiet, very smooth. When it comes to going into the pile, there's no comparison to the old ones. I wish we had a few more.
Milton Cat's sales and service teams have been working with American rock salt for 2 decades, starting with the mine's first R2900 underground loaders in 2000. Many other machines have been delivered since, along with continuous around-the-clock service and support.
As a partner for American Rock Salt, our service department is incredibly important to their operation, not only supplementing their workforce repairing machines, but diagnosing and making sure that they have everything that they need on a daily basis.
Milton has been nothing but fantastic. They do an excellent job, and that's why when we disassemble something, we usually change out the people from machine to machine because of the knowledge that these techs bring in. That knowledge is shared from one to the next.
Our relationship with Milton Cat has been one of great success stories for American Rock Salt. They have been one of our key components in establishing American Rock Salt as the largest underground producing salt mine in the United States.